lazily over the turquoise waters of Monaco, turning the sky into the Mediterranean sun-hung streak of molten gold and pink. On the marina, sleek yachts bobbed gently, their polished decks gleaming in the late afternoon light. The air smelled of salt, expensive perfume, and the faint tang of fresh champagne. For most visitors, Monaco was a playground for the wealthy, a glittering jewel where decadence and danger danced side by side. But for Ariana Cruz, it was the stage for her 22nd birthday, a milestone she intended to celebrate with unapologetic grandeur. Ariana stood on the deck of a luxury yacht named Aurora, letting the sun warm her skin as her friends fussed over the final preparations. Her hair, long and black as midnight, cascaded over her shoulders in effortless waves. Her eyes, sharp and alert, scanned the horizon as if she could already sense every opportunity the city-state offered. She was the kind of woman who could walk into a room and bend it to her will with just a glance, and she knew it. Being the heiress of the Cruz crime family came with privileges, yes, but also responsibilities she had long ago learned to wear like armor. "Are you coming down, Ariana?" called Lila, her closest friend and one of the few people who could balance Ariana's intensity with effortless charm. She held a flute of champagne in one hand and a silk scarf in the other, her golden hair catching the sunlight. Ariana hesitated, letting a sly smile tug at the corner of her lips. "Give me a minute. I want to watch the city before it swallows us whole." From up above, Monaco was breathtaking. The pastel buildings clung to the cliffs, the harbor below dotted with yachts that looked like floating palaces. The casinos, hotels, and boutiques glittered like 1,000 stars fallen to earth. Ariana took a slow sip of her champagne, letting the bubbles tickle her tongue. Birthdays were always a chance to celebrate, yes, but also to assess who she was, who she wanted to be, and occasionally who she might need to keep an eye on. Her thoughts were interrupted by the sudden commotion at the dock below. A sleek black car had just pulled up, its engine purring like a predator. Ariana's gaze sharpened. Something about the arrival felt different, unmistakably deliberate. "Who's that?" Lila murmured, noticing Ariana's sudden shift in focus. "Not sure," Ariana replied, her tone calm but alert. She had been trained to recognize danger or opportunity long before most people could. And from the look of it, the man stepping out of the car was neither a tourist nor a businessman. He exuded control, precision, and an air of icy detachment that made Ariana's pulse tick faster. He was tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored navy suit that hugged his lean frame perfectly. Black hair, neatly styled, framed a face that was both sharp and unreadable. His eyes, dark and calculating, swept over the marina with a quiet intensity, as though measuring everything in sight. Every movement he made was purposeful, deliberate, and Ariana's instincts screamed that he was not someone to underestimate. "That's Min-jae Kim," a voice said from behind her. Lila tilted her head in curiosity. "Or Jae, as people call him. Well, you could say he runs things in South Korea. And he doesn't travel lightly." Ariana's eyebrows arched slightly. "South Korea? Runs things?" She smirked, swirling her champagne again. "Interesting. I like interesting." The man Jae didn't notice Ariana at first. He moved with the quiet confidence of someone who expected the world to adjust to him, not the other way around. But when their eyes finally met across the marina, a spark ignited. A clash of egos, an unspoken challenge that neither would back down from. Ariana, amused and intrigued, tilted her head slightly. There was something magnetic about him, a cold allure that made her pulse quicken in a way she wasn't used to. Usually, people flinched under her gaze or tried to flatter her. Jae didn't flinch. He didn't acknowledge her at all, yet the very fact that he ignored her only made her more curious, and irritated in equal measure. "Someone likes to play hard to get," she muttered under her breath, smirking. Meanwhile, Jae had noted the woman standing atop the yacht, the way she held herself, the quiet authority that radiated even in the casual elegance of her sun dress. She wasn't ordinary. She wasn't just another wealthy socialite. Her presence had weight, substance, a kind of danger wrapped in beauty. He filed her away in his mind under complication, and continued down the dock, though he knew their paths were destined to cross. The yacht finally docked, and Ariana descended with a confident grace, her friends trailing behind her, laughing and chatting. The casino gala she had planned for the evening was just hours away, but she had decided to take a walk along the marina, letting the wind whip at her dress and testing the waters of this new playground. It was then that Jae approached her, his movements precise and measured. When he spoke, his voice was smooth, controlled, like velvet draped over steel. "You're Ariana Cruz," he said, his English flawless, his gaze locked on hers. "I've heard about you." Ariana raised an eyebrow, not intimidated in the slightest. "Oh, I hope they said good things," she replied, her tone teasing. "Or at least entertaining things." He didn't smile. "Both, I imagine." His eyes held hers, sharp, probing. "I was told you handle yourself well in difficult situations." Ariana's lips curved into a wry smile. "Difficult situations are my specialty. But I wonder, do you handle yourself well in them, or just expect others to?" Their conversation was a delicate game of verbal fencing, each testing the other, circling around ego, power, and respect without ever giving away too much. People passed by, but the world around them seemed to shrink to just the two of them. Sparks of something dangerous and thrilling crackled between them, mutual challenge, curiosity, and the faintest hint of attraction. Before the tension could escalate further, a commotion broke out at the edge of the marina. A group of men in dark suits had started unloading crates from an unmarked van, their movements suspicious. Ariana's instincts screamed that this was no ordinary delivery. Jae's expression didn't change, but his hand moved subtly toward his jacket, where a small weapon was concealed. "This isn't part of the scenery," Ariana said under her breath, glancing at Jae. She didn't ask for his help. She never did. But something told her they might need to work together, if only temporarily. Jae finally spoke, calm but commanding. "Stay close. Watch the exits." Ariana felt a thrill run through her veins. She didn't like being told what to do, but she recognized competence when she saw it. And in that moment, standing side by side with someone who could match her in both danger and intelligence, something stirred deep in her. A mix of respect, irritation, and undeniable intrigue. The men at the van began moving crates toward a discreet warehouse, unaware that their actions had just drawn the attention of two of the most dangerous young players in the criminal underworld. Ariana's mind raced. This could be her chance to prove herself, or it could end in disaster. Either way, she wasn't about to back down. "Shall we?" she asked, her tone light, almost playful, but her eyes deadly serious. Jae's lips barely twitched in acknowledgement. "After you," he said, and just like that, their paths intertwined not by choice but by circumstance. A shared danger had brought them together, setting the stage for a week that would push them to the limits of ego, power, and something far more intoxicating, attraction. As the sun dipped lower into the Mediterranean horizon, the glittering lights of Monaco came alive. The city promised wealth, decadence, and peril in equal measure. For Ariana Cruz and Min-jae Kim, the week ahead would test everything they thought they knew about control, trust, and desire. And neither of them could imagine that what began as a clash of egos would ignite a fire far hotter than either had anticipated. For tonight, however, the game had just begun, and the first move had been made. The next morning, Monaco woke to its usual sun-drenched perfection, oblivious to the undercurrents of danger brewing in its shadows. On the terrace of the Monte Carlo Bay Hotel, Ariana Cruz sipped her espresso, the sea breeze teasing her hair as she surveyed the marina below. She had spent the night reviewing the images from the previous day, the suspicious van, the men unloading crates, and the calculated presence of Min-jae Kim. Her instincts were screaming. The Cruz family had always thrived on knowing who their enemies were before the enemies knew them, and Ariana had been trained to react swiftly. But this situation felt different. Jae was involved, and she could feel the invisible lines of danger converging like a predator circling its prey. Her phone buzzed. A message appeared from one of her contacts. "The shipment is not what they say. Rival gang moving fast. They know you're watching. Stay sharp. Ariana frowned. She knew the type: reckless, impatient, dangerous. And more importantly, she knew that if she didn't move quickly, the situation could spiral out of control. Just as she was considering her next move, the familiar click of heels echoed on the marble floor behind her. She turned to see Jae, impeccably dressed, his expression as unreadable as ever. He held a tablet under one arm, his gaze scanning the terrace as though he owned it. "You're early," Ariana said, setting her espresso down and rising to meet him. "I don't do early or late," he replied coolly. "I do effective." His dark eyes locked onto hers. "And I heard your little yacht stunt yesterday drew some unwanted attention." Ariana's lips curved into a smirk. "Unwanted attention can be enlightening." She tilted her head. "Are you here to lecture me? Or?" "I'm here because our problems overlap," he said, gesturing at the marina. "And if we don't work together, both our interests could be compromised." Ariana raised an eyebrow, trying to mask the irritation that flickered through her chest. "Work together? That's rich coming from you, Mr. Kim. Since when do we play nicely?" Jae's gaze didn't waver. "Since survival requires it. Consider it temporary." The word hung between them, charged with tension. Temporary. They didn't trust each other, not fully. Neither would admit that their respective skills complemented one another in dangerous, undeniable ways. "So, what's your brilliant plan?" Ariana asked, her tone sharp. "Observation," Jae replied. "We follow the gang's movements, map their network, and intercept before the shipment leaves Monaco." Ariana narrowed her eyes. "Sounds boring. Also, it sounds like you're trying to control the situation entirely, which might be a problem." Jae's lips quirked, barely noticeable. "You worry too much, but fine. We'll share intelligence. Half your way, half mine. Don't patronize me," she snapped, though internally, her pulse betrayed a mixture of irritation and something else. Chemistry, perhaps, though she refused to name it. The day passed with tense coordination. Ariana's team surveilled the docks while Jae's operatives scanned the shipping lanes. They communicated sparingly, often in clipped tones. Arguments erupted over strategy. Ariana wanted to move aggressively, relying on instinct and daring. Jae insisted on precision and caution. Their bickering drew attention from some of their operatives, who watched the clash of two strong personalities with equal parts admiration and anxiety. "You're reckless," Jae hissed under his breath as Ariana stormed toward a warehouse inspection point, ignoring protocol. "And you're paranoid," she retorted, arms crossed, glaring up at him. "You hide behind your calculations while the world moves right in front of you. Open your eyes, Kim." He smirked, cold but amused. "Perhaps I do, but I also survive. Something to consider." Despite the tension, moments of unexpected collaboration appeared. When a lookout shouted about suspicious men approaching the docks, Ariana and Jae instinctively coordinated a rapid, silent interception. Ariana's quick thinking, suppressing a potential alarm and redirecting the crew, combined perfectly with Jae's calculated threat assessment. Within minutes, they had neutralized the immediate danger without alerting the gang. "You're efficient," Ariana admitted begrudgingly, her cheeks burning with a hint of admiration she refused to acknowledge. "I could say the same about you," Jae replied, his gaze sharp. "Though you rely too much on instincts." "And you rely too much on control," she shot back, but her voice lacked its usual bite. Their eyes met, and for a fleeting moment, the tension between irritation and attraction vibrated like a live wire. By nightfall, the partnership was far from seamless. In fact, it was a storm of arguing, sabotage, and reluctant cooperation. But beneath the verbal sparring, a subtle understanding grew. Ariana began noticing Jae's attention to detail, his uncanny ability to anticipate moves before they happened. Jae, in turn, observed Ariana's audacity and courage, the fearlessness she displayed when confronting danger head-on. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting Monaco in shades of orange and purple, they reconvened at the Monte Carlo Bay Hotel to plan the next phase of their counterattack. The lobby was a maze of marble, gold accents, and crystal chandeliers. Ariana moved confidently through the crowd, but Jae's hand brushed hers. A fleeting, accidental contact that made her pulse skip. Neither acknowledged it, though the air seemed to hum with tension. They entered a private conference room, reviewing the gang's shipment routes and potential allies. Ariana traced her finger along a map, circling points of interest, while Jae's sharp eyes noted anomalies in the schedules. "I still don't trust this," Ariana muttered. "We're too exposed. Any slip-up, and they'll know we're onto them." "We adapt," Jae replied. "Just like we did today. Together." "Together?" she echoed incredulously. "I'm not sure I like the sound of that." He didn't answer, simply leaned over the map, his proximity making her heart pound in ways she didn't expect. The tension escalated further when the door suddenly burst open. Men in black masks and tactical gear stormed the room, guns raised, and Ariana and Jae were caught entirely off guard. "Move!" a masked figure shouted. Ariana's instincts kicked in. She shoved Jae behind a marble pillar, grabbed the nearest chair, and swung it with precision. Jae responded instantly, his movements fluid and lethal. They worked in tandem, back to back, defending themselves with a rhythm neither had consciously practiced. But somehow, they moved as one. A stray bullet shattered the glass wall behind them, sending shards raining down. Ariana's breath hitched as Jae's hand briefly brushed hers while redirecting an attacker. She felt an unfamiliar surge of exhilaration. Fear and adrenaline mingled with something far more dangerous. Desire. The attackers closed in, forcing them into a corner. Ariana's mind raced. They couldn't just fight their way out, too many variables. She glanced at Jae, their eyes locking, communicating without words. "Now," he mouthed, and she understood. Together, they bolted through a side exit, sliding down a staircase just as the gunman fired. The hotel's luxurious hallway became a blur of marble and crystal, each second charged with the adrenaline of survival. They emerged onto the terrace, panting, hearts racing. The city lights of Monaco stretched below them, dazzling and indifferent to the chaos that had just unfolded. Ariana's hair was wild from the wind, her dress torn at the shoulder, but her eyes shone with fierce determination. Jae adjusted his jacket, brushing off dust, his dark eyes finally revealing a flicker of respect. "This is far from over," he said, his voice low but controlled. "No," Ariana agreed, her chest heaving. "And I'm starting to think, maybe we're going to need each other." The words hung between them, fragile and electric. For the first time, they acknowledged the truth neither wanted to admit. In the dangerous dance of Monaco's underworld, their survival depended not just on skill, but on cooperation, whether they liked it or not. And as the night wrapped the city in darkness, the distant sounds of sirens and engines reminded them that the rival gang was still out there, closing in, watching, waiting. Their uneasy alliance had begun, but neither could predict just how much the other would change their world, or their heart. The early morning haze hung over Monaco like a delicate veil, softening the edges of the city but doing nothing to calm Ariana Cruz's restless mind. The previous night's attack at the Monte Carlo Bay Hotel replayed in her thoughts in vivid flashes. The smell of gunpowder, the adrenaline, and the way Min-jae Jae Kim had moved with lethal precision, anticipating every move she made. Despite herself, she couldn't stop thinking about him. His eyes, sharp and calculating, seemed to see through her, but not in a threatening way. More like he understood her in ways most people never could. And yet, their partnership was purely a matter of necessity. Survival, strategy, business, not feelings. A soft knock at her sweet door broke her reverie. Lila poked her head in, a sly smile on her face. "You're late for breakfast? Or are you just brooding about the mysterious Mr. Kim?" she teased. Ariana rolled her eyes, brushing a strand of black hair behind her ear. "I'm not brooding. I'm strategizing. Big difference." Lila smirked knowingly and left her to her thoughts. Ariana stared out at the marina, her mind already replaying the events of the night and planning the next steps. Jae had proven his skill and control, and now, reluctantly, she realized she had to learn to work with him, or risk losing everything. When Jae arrived at the yacht later that morning, his presence was as commanding as ever. He didn't greet her with pleasantries. Instead, he held up a tablet displaying real-time surveillance feeds. "We can't afford another ambush," he said, voice low and precise. "They've escalated their movements. If we act independently, they'll exploit it." Ariana raised an eyebrow, smirking despite herself. "Ah yes, Mr. Kim, the master strategist. I should probably just hand over control to you entirely, shouldn't I? Do you want to survive?" he asked, tilting his head slightly. The faintest hint of a challenge played at the corner of his lips. "I want to survive, and I want to make sure they know I was the one who outsmarted them," she countered, her tone teasing but sharp. They traded barbed remarks for a while, each push and counterpush a subtle dance of ego and intellect. But gradually, the tension began to evolve into something more collaborative. Ariana noticed how meticulous Jae was, how he could anticipate the rival gang's moves, calculating the smallest probabilities. And Jae noticed Ariana's audacity, her quick thinking under pressure, and her ability to improvise when plans went sideways. By midday, they had devised a strategy to track the gang's shipments without alerting them, combining Ariana's intuition and Jae's precision. Their movements around Monaco became a game of shadows and signals, staking out warehouses from hidden vantage points, intercepting couriers along narrow streets, and slipping unnoticed through the city's glamorous facades. It was during one such stakeout, in the crowded elegance of a high-end nightclub, that the romantic tension between them began to surge. Ariana leaned against a polished bar, scanning the room for a contact who could provide intel, when Jae appeared beside her, his presence magnetic and unyielding. "You're too obvious," he muttered, his voice low, brushing her shoulder in a movement that sent an unexpected shiver down her spine. "I'm observant," she shot back, though the heat rising to her cheeks betrayed her amusement, "and something deeper." "And you're?" "Too precise," he replied, his gaze lingering just a fraction longer than necessary. They moved through the crowd together, their bodies brushing occasionally, their words sharp but layered with unspoken attraction. Ariana caught him watching her during a dance floor moment, a fleeting glance that made her heart race. The music pulsed around them, and for a moment, the dangerous world they inhabited melted away, leaving only the thrill of proximity and unspoken desire. But the tension between desire and duty returned quickly. Their enemies escalated their attacks. A convoy of rival gangsters tried to ambush them near the harbor, forcing Ariana and Jae into a daring chase through Monaco's winding streets. Motorcycles roared past, their tires screeching against cobblestones, and the city lights blurred in adrenaline-fueled streaks. Ariana clung to the back of a sleek Ducati, Jae steering with unmatched precision, narrowly avoiding collisions and traps. At one point, a stray crate from a warehouse fell directly in their path. Jae swerved expertly, catching Ariana by the waist as they careened into an alley. The contact was brief but intimate enough to send sparks through both of them. Ariana's chest heaved from the adrenaline, and she noticed, with a mix of shock and fascination, the rare crack in Jae's otherwise impervious exterior. A small exhale, a fleeting flush. Later, aboard a discreet yacht, they regrouped, soaked from rain and wind after a high-speed escape along Monaco's coastline. The danger had drawn them close, forcing coordination, trust, and proximity. Ariana studied him carefully, noting how his eyes softened when he thought no one was watching. "You're different up close," she said quietly, breaking the silence that had fallen over them. "I could say the same about you," Jae replied, his tone almost hesitant. Their shared understanding of risk, loyalty, and family ambition created a bridge neither had expected to form. That night, as they reviewed the day's events and updated their strategy, Ariana felt her thoughts drifting. She caught herself stealing glances at him when he wasn't looking, watching how his jaw clenched in concentration, how his fingers moved deftly across the tablet, how his hair fell slightly into his eyes. Thank you for watching. Episode 1 ends here. Find out more about the story in episode 2 coming up soon. If you enjoyed the story, leave us a comment. Also like, share and subscribe to our channel, and click on the notification bell to get notified whenever a new story is made.